So today I am going to discuss the sources of drug. These sources of drug that we are going to discuss, this is also called nature of drug, and this is also called the phytochemicals. Phyto means plant and chemical means chemical. So the chemical present in the plants, and also we are going to discuss the same thing, that is also phytochemicals is also called the active constituent. So in this class, we are going to discuss the source of drugs or the nature of drugs or the phytochemicals. So in this, the main element that a drug have or the active constituent of plant have are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and the nitrogen, and these all may found in form of combination with the fat, carbohydrate, tannins, resins, waxes, alkaloid, glycosides, acid, terpenes, and this may be along with the inorganic salt. So this active constituent has been grouped on the basis of their physical and chemical property. So in this, the first most important source of drug or active constituent is alkaloid. So first we have to go about its name. Why the name is alkaloid? The name, if you go through the name, you will find alkali, because these alkaloids are alkali in nature. So because of its basic nature, the name is alkaloids. First, very important point. Second, very important point is that majority of alkaloid ends with ine, spelling in. So these two very important point with the alkaloids. Third thing is that this is a nitrogenous organic basis, and because this is natural, so natural nitrogenous basis. So nitrogenous is indicating for nitrogen. So this alkaloid is a nitrogenous organic basis, contain most important thing is the nitrogen. Along with this nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen are also present, and the one more important constituent in this alkaloid is oxygen. If the alkaloid in the alkaloid oxygen is present, this becomes solid in nature or solid alkaloid. If the oxygen is absent, this the same alkaloid is become liquid. So you can say the alkaloid exists in two forms, solid and liquid, based upon the presence and absence of the oxygen. So under this, the solid alkaloid, the examples are atropine, morphine. These are two very important alkaloid. Then the strychnine is another very important alkaloid. Quinine, that is for used for malaria treatment. Then cocaine. So these all the solid alkaloid are very important alkaloid, and if they don't contain the oxygen, alkaloid if don't contain the oxygen, then the same alkaloid become liquid in nature, and if this is liquid, then the chances of volatility is more, so volatile as well as the liquid, whereas the solid one is non-volatile. Under the liquid alkaloids, the example are, most important example are these three: ericoline, nicotine, and lobeline. So this is about the alkaloid solid and alkaloid liquid. And regarding name, we already discussed, because of the alkali nature of alkaloid, the name is alkaloid. The alkaloid which has been isolated from the plant animal source is very very important. That is adrenaline or epinephrine. Adrenaline is also known as epinephrine. Some of the alkaloid also synthesized in the lab, like apomorphine and theophylline. So theophylline as well as the apomorphine, both are synthetic alkaloids. So this is very very important. Now we have to go through the some of the interesting characteristics of the alkaloid. These are usually the alkaloid have the suffix ine that we already discussed. That is alkaline in nature. So this is bitter, become bitter in taste, and this is going to give the litmus property, that is the alkaline property. The another about its solubility, the alkaloid is usually insoluble in water as well as very less soluble in alcohol. So alcohol and water, in these two, alkaloid is rather insoluble. However, the chemical like ether and chloroform and the oils, in these three, the alkaloid are freely soluble. So this is very very important property. Another property is that because alkaloid is basic in nature, so this is going to combine with the acid, reacting with the acid. So when an acid is going to react with the base, a salt is formed, and we are going to call it alkaloid salt. uh, But their solubility is just opposite property about its solubility. What it is, now the salt becomes soluble in water as well as the alcohol, whereas as such alkaloid insoluble in these two components. However, insoluble alkaloid salt is insoluble in chloroform, ether, and oil. So this is very another important characteristic of the alkaloid. Now we have to go through its incompatibility. So first we have to discuss what is the meaning of incompatibility. Incompatibility means the compound is or are not compatible, not suitable, not good to combine with the other compound. So the alkaloid usually not soluble, not suitable, or not compatible with the compound, like particularly the alkaloid salts, not alkaloid salt are incompatible, not suitable with alkalis, with tannic acid, with the element like iodine, iodides, bromides. They are comparatively insoluble. As well as with the mercuric chloride, it is going to form, it is insoluble there. So these are the incompatibility property of alkaloid with the alkaloid salts, with the alkalis, with the tannic acid, and iodine, iodide, and bromides. So these are the very very important properties or incompatibilities of the alkaloid. Other properties of the alkaloids are alkaloids that are isolated from plant. So this is called plant source of the alkaloid. So plant source of the alkaloid, that we already discussed about the solid and liquid. In the all that solid and liquid, they are isolated from the that we already mentioned, that are from the plant source. So plant source alkaloid, usually the solid alkaloid are atropine, morphine, quinine, and strychnine. So these all solid alkaloid are plant source. This is from Atropa belladonna. So this is strychnus nux vomica. This is the from the bark of cinchona tree, and this is from the one more plant, that the other plant that are going to give the alkaloid liquid in nature. So liquid alkaloids are ericoline, nicotine, and lobeline. These three are also isolated from the plant but are liquid in nature. So this is called natural liquid alkaloid from the plant source. So we already discussed about this animal source of the alkaloid, that is the epinephrine and norepinephrine. Other are serotonin and muscopyridine. The alkaloid which isolated from fungal source are muscarine. So best example is ergotamine and ergometrine. So ergotamine and ergometrine, these two are the very important alkaloid isolated from the fungus and which is going to produce the toxicity in the animals. So this is very good example of the alkaloid which rather produce toxicity in animal. So this is the ergotamine and ergometrine and also the muscarine. Semi-synthetic alkaloid that we already discussed about the apomorphine. So apomorphine is synthetic, or you can say the semi-synthetic. So this is all about the alkaloid that we already discussed. Now we have to go through the another source of the drug. This is also very interesting and important, is glycoside. So glycoside, what is this? If you want to define this glycoside, glycoside is possessing, is usually a complex organic compound, very important point, and made up of two moiety. One is sugar moiety, another is non-sugar moiety. So glycoside are complex organic compound having sugar moiety and non-sugar moiety. The sugar moiety and non-sugar moiety of the glycoside are connect together by a linkage. We call it ether linkage. So glycoside are a complex organic compound made up of sugar and non-sugar moiety and get connected by linkage, that is we calling it the ether linkage. So this is important. Another thing is that similar to alkaloid, of course, glycoside also possesses carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but the nitrogen in very less cases, glycoside possesses nitrogen. But in some glycoside, nitrogen may be present, but this is in very some glycoside, and in very few glycoside you will find the sulfur also. So the main constituent of the glycoside are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but the nitrogen as well as in some the sulfur is also present. The example are cardiac glycoside like digitoxin, digoxin. These two are the cardiac glycoside acting on the heart. Other than the glycoside, cardiac glycoside example are aubane, silarine. So these all the are the example of the glycoside. So here very important point is that if the sugar moiety is a glucose or dextrose, we are calling it glucoside. Glycoside is called glucoside. If glycoside possesses sugar, glucose, or you can say dextrose, the glycoside is called glucoside. And if the sugar moiety of the glycoside is galactose, we are going to call it the galactoside. So glucoside and galactoside is are glycoside based upon the sugar moiety. Now we have to go through the other property of the glycoside. Other regarding the other property of the glycoside are glycoside is usually hydrolyzed by the enzyme or acid. So when the glycoside is going to hydrolyze by enzyme or acid by heat, because as we already discussed, this is made up of two moiety, sugar and non-sugar moiety. So these two are get connected by ethereal linkage. So after breaking this bond, they are going to convert divide into two parts, sugar and non-sugar moiety. So sugar moiety of glycoside is called glycone, and non-sugar moiety is called aglycone or genin. So in these two component of glycoside, I mean the sugar moiety or glycone, or non-sugar moiety or aglycone or genin, non-sugar or aglycone or genin, the pharmacological activity is present in non-sugar moiety. Means non-sugar moiety of the glycoside, that we call it a glycone or genin, is possesses the pharmacological action. So pharmacological action is present in non-sugar moiety. The example we already discussed. In case of alkaloid, they end with INE, but glycoside is end with IN. So this is very good example. The example of the glycosides we already discussed earlier above. Now the a special type of glycoside, the plant glycoside, and we already keep this, nowadays we are keeping this glycoside as a separate subgroup. We are calling it saponin. So if you want to define saponin, what is saponin? So saponin are usually glycoside, that is the plant glycoside, possessing a special type of protein property. While shaking these saponin, they form frothiness. So saponins are glycoside. On shaking with the water, they form frothiness, is called saponin. So example again, the digitonin, senigenin, glycyrrhizin. So glycyrrhizin isolated from Glycyrrhiza glabra. So this saponin is a subgroup of glycoside. When we are shaking with it water, this is going to produce the frothiness, is called saponin. So this is all about the glycoside and its subgroup saponin. Now we have to go through the other drug component or component, and this is also very very important, that is tannin, or you can say the tannic acid. What is important property regarding tannin? Tannin are phenolic compound, complex phenolic compound, because this in the name the acid is coming, so this is acid in nature. So tannins are acid in nature. So if anything acid in nature, when you are going to apply acid on the protein, this is going to precipitate the protein. So tannins are having the property to precipitate the protein of the mucous membrane and form a protective layer, and because of this precipitating property of protein, precipitating property obtaining to the protein, this is called astringent. So what, if you want to define what is astringent, after putting in this astringent S, so astringent are the agent which is going to precipitate the surface protein, that is the mucous membrane protein, and forming a protective layer because of its precipitation, and therefore this is called astringent. So it is precipitating the mucous membrane, that is the protein, and forming a protective layer, and therefore it is and the other property of the it is astringent. So when you are applying over the bleeding surface area of the skin, I mean the astringent, this is going to coagulate it, clot it, form the clot. So it will check the hemorrhage over the surface. Which one? The astringent or the tannins. Other important pointing, when important point is that when you are giving this astringent in the GI tract, this is going to precipitate the protein of mucous membrane of the gastrointestinal tract and form a protective layer, and therefore it reduces the absorption of the toxic principle present in gastrointestinal tract. So other property of tannins are going to precipitate the metallic salt, precipitate the alkaloids, precipitate the protein. So these are the property of the tannins. Examples are catechu, then cinnamon, then cinchona, then quino. So these all are the examples of tannin like catechu, cinchona, and cinnamon. These all are started with the spelling with the C under the example of tannins. So we already discussed about the tannins. Now we have to discuss about the other component of the drugs like resins, or you can say plant. So now we have to discuss about the resins. So what is resins? Resins are also isolated from the plant source and usually solid in nature. So this is very important property, and also isolated as exudates also. And this is insoluble in water. Which one? The resins are insoluble in water and acid in character, insoluble in water, and soluble in alcohol and alkali, and usually solid in nature. And example are jalap, podophyllum, celophyllum. So we can say the jalap, podophyllum, celophyllum are the example of resins and are the extract or exudate of the plant. And other property of this one resin are when you are going to mix the resin with the alkali, they are going to form the soap. So how we are making the soaps, when you are going to mix the resin with the alkali, they are going to form the resin soap, but they are non-detergent in nature. And you can say the fixed oil is along with the alkalis also form the soaps. There are various combination of resins are, and the name is based upon the another component. If this resin is combined with the oil, we are going to call it oleoresins. So what is the definition of oleoresins? Oleoresins are the resins which is mixture of oil, and that oil is volatile in nature with the resin are called oleoresin. Oleo means oil, so name is clear cut indicating the definition of oleoresin. Oleoresin is the are the mixture of oil, volatile oil, and resin are called oleoresin, and the best example is the crude turpentine. Next is the gum resin. So what is gum resin? So another, now it is defining the same thing, gum resin. So gum, when we are putting the gum with the resin, is called gum resin. So gum mixed with resin is called gum resin. And example is asafoetida. Asafoetida is a gum resin, that is the mixture of gum and resin is called gum resin. And balsam, another example, what is balsam? Balsam is resins which is combination or mixed with the benzoic acid or cinnamic acid or without cinnamic acid is called balsam. So what is balsam? Balsam is the oil resins or oleoresin mixed with cinnamic acid, benzoic acid and cinnamic acid is called balsam. Cinnamic acid may or may not be present, but usually the benzoic acid is present with the resin is called balsam. The example are balsam of Tolu, balsam of Peru, and benzoin. So these all are the example of balsam. So balsam are resins in combination with benzoic acid plus cinnamic acid, or cinnamic acid may not be present. So this is about the balsam. Now we have to go through the gum. I think you all people are knowing about the gum, and if you go through the example of gum, then you will find very good therapeutic property of gum posage. This is also the plant extract that we are discussing here are mostly plant extract. So gum are also the plant, not extract, exudate. So gums are plant exudate or the secretory product of the plant and used as a emulsifying agent. So first we have to go through the what is the definition of the emulsifying agent. So emulsifying agent are we are calling it as act as a suspending agent. What it means, if you are going to mix oil with water, this is rather impossible to mix together. So mixing this oil with the water, you have to have suspending agent, you have to have the emulsifying agent. So emulsifying agent is just act like the stabilizer, which is stabilizing the mixing of oil with the water, or which is going to help to suspend these two material, is called emulsifying agent. And usually these two agents are insoluble together. So this means oil and water are insoluble in together. So therefore, for mixing these two insoluble things, we are going to put emulsifying agent or emulsifier or suspending agent, which keep these two substances together. So that is the very important function of the gum that we have. If you are going to make any preparation, pharmacy preparation in the lab, and if you will find these two components there, then you have to search the gum to suspend these two substances together. Other property of the gum is that the gum are carbohydrate, or you can say the polysaccharide, and they have shapeless, amorphous in nature, shapeless and transparent in nature. So these are the property of the gum. Other property of the gum are, when you are mixing the gum with the water, the gum becomes swell, and after swelling of gum with the water, they form viscid adhesive fluid. Viscid adhesive fluid, we are going to call it the mucilage or jelly. So what is the mucilage or jelly? Are gums mixed with the water and they swell and form a viscid adhesive fluid. We call it the mucilage or jelly. And the example of the gums are acacia, then agar that we are using in the lab, then isabguala or psyllium that is used for the treatment of constipation, and then agar is used in the lab for microbiological process, and tragacan. So these all are the example of gums. So we already discussed about the gums. So gums is a emulsifier, emulsifying agent. So we are going to use as a emulsifying agent. Now we have to go through the very important another component, and this component we are going to call it the oils. So majority of oils that we are using are of plant origin, and the oils, when this should be applied over the cloth or over the paper, they form the greasiness, and when the oil is there, it leave a stain, and that stain should not be washed with the water. Okay. And the another is that the paper, if this is on the paper becomes translucent. So oils are three type on the based upon its volatility at the room temperature usually. If this is liquid, so this is called fixed oil and liquid and non-volatile. And if this is a volatile oil or volatile, then this is called volatile oil. And if the oil is isolated from the ground, we are calling it the mineral oil or petrochemical oils. So there are three types of oil based upon its physical property and its isolation: fixed pro oil, that volatile oils, and petrochemical oil or mineral oil. Regarding the fixed oil is concerned, usually when you are going to mix the fixed oil with the alkali, going to form the soap. But volatile oil, when you are going to mix with the alkali, not going to form the soap. So this is very important property is that fixed oil are usually ester of fatty acid. So ester of higher fatty acids or ester of glycerol with fatty acid are called glyceride, and fixed oil are liquid in nature in room temperature, whereas the volatile oil are volatile at ordinary room temperature. So this is very important property. The oil under the fixed oil isolated from the plant, and we are using also for the cooking purposes. So plant fixed oil are olive oil, castor oil, rapeseed oil, linseed oil, mustard oil, so corn oil. These all are the plant origin fixed oil, and those fixed oil that we are using for the cooking purposes are corn oil, groundnut oil, sunflower oil, mustard oil, and soybean oil. These all are fixed oil, means ki these all are non-volatile at room temperature and usually inert. So this is very important property with the oils is that the fixed oil are inert in nature, but when anyone is going to take these fixed oil in excess quantity, that is going to produce the purgatives. So what is the purgatives? So S is here. So purgatives are the agent. So when you are going to take it, this is going to produce the purgation, or this is going to expel out the bowel or stool material, and it is going to relieve from the constipation. So these oils are used to relieve from the constipation through purgative action. And fixed oil that usually we are using as a purgative agent to evacuate the bowels are castor oil, castor oil, croton oil, and linseed oil. So these all are the oil: croton oil, castor oil, linseed oil. These all are, we are also using the as a purgative. Amongst these all the three, the most important is the castor oil that we are using as a purgative. Castor oil here. So castor oil is still using we are as a purgative agent. Now we are going through the oil, particularly the fixed oil isolated from the animal source, and we are using as a therapeutic purposes, and these oils are isolated from fish, that is the cod liver oil and the shark liver oil. So shark liver oil and cod liver oil, these are two are the animal fixed oil, and the fixed oil are usually soluble in alcohol, chloroform, and ether, and fixed oil usually leave the stain or greasiness, also mark the paper. And with the alkali, fixed oil with the alkali form the soap. So this we already discussed. So fixed oil in alkali forms soap, and glycerin. Fixed oil is also act as a emollient. So what is the meaning of emollient? So when you are putting S here, so emollients are the agents, are the chemicals or the substance when you are applying over the skin. It soften the area where you have applied, it soothe the area where you have applied. So these oil are also possessing the emollient property of softness and soothiness. So this is very very important. Now another oil, other property about the fixed oil is what is fat. So fat is also a fixed oil. So this fat is a fixed oil and which remains solid or semi-solid at room temperature. So when a fixed oil is solid in nature and semi-solid in nature, at room temperature, ordinary room temperature is called fat, and usually we are using these fat for the preparation of ointment as a base material, like hard paraffin, like soft paraffin, lard, lanolin, bitter, and wool fat. So these all are the fat. Lard is a fat isolated from the pig, lanolin, butter, wool fat. These all are the fat, and we may use this fat as a base material for preparation of pharmacy preparation like the ointment. So this is very very important. Now we have to go through the another oil. We are calling it the volatile, because these oil at room temperature, that is the ordinary temperature, this one at our ordinary temperature, uh, volatile oil are oil at room temperature get volatilized at ordinary temperature or room temperature get evaporate. Another important property just opposite to the fixed oil, non-greasy. So this is not going to form any spot. So this is very very important property. And the dissimilar to the fixed oil, when you are going to mix with the alkali, that is not going to form any soap. However, the fixed oil is going to form the soap with the alkali. The therapeutic usage of these volatile oil is also called essential oil, also called ethereal oil, because it is chemically ether. Then aromatic, because it is having flavor, so flavoring oil, produced mainly by plant. So these are the property under the volatile oil. So volatile oil also have the therapeutic efficacy like diuretic, like carminative, like expectorants, like counter irritant, like antiseptics. So as we already discussed earlier, that carminative, luxative, diuretics. So what is diuretics? Diuretics are the agent that are going to help to pass out the urine, is called diuretics. So sandalwood oils are used as a diuretic. Next is the expectorant. So expectorants are the agent that are going to remove the cough from the respiratory tract, are called expectorant. Counter irritant means ki those chemicals that are going to counteracting the irritation, lessening the irritation, is called counter irritant. Clove oil, another oil is the clove oil, is antiseptic. Clove means long. So when you are applying this clove oil, this is acting as an antiseptic, as well as its analgesic action is going to relieve the toothache, tooth pain. And because of its antiseptic action, this is going to relieve relieve the infection. Sepsis causing bacteria kill the sepsis causing or inhibit the growth of sepsis causing microorganisms. Carminatives example is cardamom. Carminatives are usually used to relieve the gases. This is going to relieve the gases from the GI tract. So this is very, very important property. Now we have to go through the other liquid volatile oils. Example that are very, very important are eucalyptus oil, clove oil, peppermint oil. These all are the flavoring one. So aromatic oil are usually flavoring one, going to give a particular flavor. Solid volatile oils are solid. These volatile oil are some of the volatile oil are also solid, similar to the fixed oil. But what is that there is called fat. Here the solid volatile oil are at room temperature are going to evaporize, and that are example camphor, menthol, thymol. So we all are aware about these three component camphor, menthol. This usually is going to evaporate and solid at room temperature and going to easily evaporate is called solid volatile oil. Now we have to go under the oil. Is the third one is the last one is the mineral oil, and because it is isolated from the petroleum product, we are calling it the petrochemical oil. So mineral oil or petrochemical oil that are petroleum product isolated by the fractional distillation, and that belongs to a class organic oil. So mineral oil are organic oil or petrochemical oil, because this is isolated from the petroleum product, and that is why the name is petrochemical oil. Mineral oil, similar to the volatile oil, is not forming soap with the alkali. This is also not forming soap with the alkali. And the example under this are hard paraffin, soft paraffin, and liquid paraffin. These all the three are petroleum product and called mineral oil or petrochemical oil, and we are going to use as a base for the preparation of the ointment. So these are the very important base used for the preparation of ointment: liquid paraffin, then the solid hard paraffin, no, sorry, not liquid paraffin, hard paraffin, soft paraffin, and liquid paraffin. Okay, these all the paraffin are phytochemical oils, are the petroleum product. Now we have to go through the other other uh, uh, other other source of the drug, like waxage, like flavonoid, like organic acid, like enzyme. So we are going to discuss these three. So why waxage, sources of the drug waxage. This is also very, very important component of the plant. So waxes are esters of fatty acid with monohydric alcohol. So waxes are ester of fatty acid with monohydric alcohol, and usually water insoluble but soluble in the organic solvent. So this is very, very important property of waxes. Waxes are liquid in nature. So waxes are liquid in nature, secreted by plant and animal. So this is very, very important. These waxes are secreted both by the plant and the animal, and they are both synthetic and semi-synthetic and natural. But presently, most of the waxes are prepared in the lab. So the nowadays we are preparing the waxes in the lab. The example are beeswax and paraffin wax. These beeswax and paraffin wax is clear cut indicating the isolation. Beeswax isolated from bees, paraffin oil, wax and beeswax both are used therapeutically for the as a base for the preparation of ointment, as well as the other topical preparation. So, wax are usually distinguished from fat and oil because the waxes are usually having the higher melting point than the fat and then the oil. That is approximately 45 degrees centigrade. And the therapeutic property that waxes we already discussed. Now we have to go through the flavonoid. Flavonoid is very important component isolated from the plant, and nowadays we are also synthesizing it. So synthesize, and this is synthesized from this flavonoid is synthesized from cinnamic acid. And flavonoid is a antioxidant, showing antioxidant property, also anti-inflammatory property, and the flavonoid is also possessing anti-neoplastic property, that means ki cancer. So this flavonoid is used for the therapy of cancer. Flavonoid is also used against the inflammation, and say going to reduce the reactive oxygen production. So the best example under the flavonoid are quercetin and genistein. These two are the very good example of the flavonoid, whereas genistein is a phytoestrogen. Phyto means plant, and the estrogen that you are knowing about this. So genistein is a phytoestrogen and a flavonoid. Now we have to go through the organic acid. Many of the acid that are isolated from the plants are citric acid, that is the vitamin C, tartaric acid, benzoic acid, and salicylic acid. These all are acid isolated from the plant, and that are organic acid. And also the sources, under the sources of drug are enzymes or ferment. Under this the enzyme from the plant is papain from the papaya. Then this is from the myosin from the muscle. Then pepsin from the digestive tract. So these all are about the drug sources.